Mark Ambrick here from MSA with our weekly update. Today is Friday, July the 17th. So what a great week we had. Temperatures really cooled off. I was just talking to one of the staff from the Northwest Barrier, and the temperature got there to -2. So hopefully no one had a garden up in that area. But you know, just in our local area, we had temperatures down to 2 degrees at the Weyerton water monitoring station. The air temperature was 2 degrees there. So cool the water down. Our cold water pools are now open, and the run of fish has been phenomenal over the last 10 to 12 days. A lot of grouse in the river. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people are exclaiming that they haven't seen this many grouse since 2011, which was a good year. And that's encouraging news. There's lots of big salmon in the river as well, as long as it sustains. It's got to keep coming. So just a week of good runs does not fix our situation. We need to get enough fish in the river. Unfortunately, we're not going to have a complete count this year. However, I did meet with DFO this past week, and they're starting to drive the Millerton trap net on this coming Monday. And again, post the COVID-19, and now they're able to get out of their offices, but there's a real backlog in staffing and security checks and medicals for people. It's so the Millerton trap net will go in first, and it'll probably only be fished 5 days a week just to get an index of what's happening, and then as they can get staff brought on, then it'll go to Cassel's and Millerton both. So the counts are up on the website now at DFO. So really there's barrier counts, there's Mactaquac counts and other facilities there. So you can access that through our website. There is a link that takes you to the DFO website, and they provide numbers to the end of June to the 15th of July and the end of July. So over the next few weeks you should see some more information there. The big news this past week has been about smallmouth bass eradication. And I'm just going to give a little background because there's mixed messages coming through the media. It was in 2008, 12 years ago, that smallmouth bass were discovered in Miramichi Lake. At that time, there was an immediate response, between DFO, the provincial government, DNR, our watershed committee, MSA, ASF. We all jumped together and said, we need to do something. And so we said, they're in the lake, we got to block the outlet. So we put a barrier at the outlet of the lake. And then we immediately started the process of applying to put rotenone in the lake to kill smallmouth bass. Well, that didn't go very well, because when we found out, even though it had been done on the Miramichi before, on Dupre Lake, and was done on Killarney Lake a few years ago, it fell between the cracks between provincial and federal legislation. In other provinces where they do this, the province has applied to the federal government for the jurisdiction to do this. The province of Brunswick hadn't. So nobody had the sort of legal right to apply rotenone. And so we went into a period where DFO said that they would take over the management of the lake and eradicate the smallmouth bass. So they mounted an effort. The Miramichi watershed was involved as well, providing some funding assistance, is to eradicate. 3-year plan where they would totally eradicate the smallmouth bass using electrofishing, gill nets, seine nets, an intensive effort. In the meantime, there was reviews being done that said, reviewing the options available. That said, you'll never remove them using mechanical means. It has to be a chemical eradication is the only worldwide technique that would work. But no legislation to authorize that. So DFO has been there on the lake with control measures for basically 11 years. Unfortunately, in the last few years, that effort has diminished. No electrofishing boat out there to pick up some fish. There's still some gill netting going on. And so, but a change came to the Federal Aquatic Invasive Species Act. And so the modification to the Fisheries Act to allow this, and that took place about 3 years ago. And 3 years ago when this was passed, it allowed the federal government and the Department of Fisheries and Oceans to be able to issue a permit to control invasive species. So that was great news. So we said, okay, this is it. Miramichi Lake, it will be a high priority. And it was even cited as Miramichi Lake as an example of where we have an invasive species that needed to be eradicated. Anyway, we were very hopeful. So what we did is we had meetings and we pushed for DFO to lead this eradication plan. And then Minister Dominique LeBlanc replied that DFO would not be the proponent, that they are a regulator and that they would not take the lead in any road-known activities. We were quite upset by that. But anyway, if that was the way it was, is that we had to look for a proponent. And we asked the province of New Brunswick if they would be the proponent to do this, and they said no, not at that time. And so one of the partners in was the North Shore Micmac District Council, and so they said that they would be the proponent. So we put together a study on how to eradicate the lake, a professional report that outlined what needed to be done, the environmental impacts of all of this would have. So this professional report was the cornerstone for us applying for a permit. So we submitted the permit last July with the North Shore Micmac District Council as the proponent, and MSA, ASF, New Brunswick Wildlife Federation, New Brunswick Watershed Committee, all as New Brunswick Salmon Council, all as members of the working group. So since this was the first application in Canada under this new act, there were no forms to fill out. The forms kept evolving, the whole process kept evolving as we kept providing information. So it's taken, that was over a year ago. And, the province, request went to the province. They did an assessment of an EIA and ruled that we didn't need an environmental impact assessment done. And the process kept going. But all of a sudden in September of last year, 2019, we discovered smallmouth bass in the southwest Miramichi River. So they had gotten out of the lake. That's where we assume they came from. Other people think there might have been another introduction. We certainly don't believe that. We believe that they came out of the lake and got into the southwest Miramichi because we found them just below the outlet of the Lake Brook. So intensive work was done to assess the spread of the smallmouth bass within the southwest Miramichi, and it is in a small geographical area. And so then we amended our application to actually treat a section of the river as well. So that took time. So that only modification went in during the winter. We had to go back and study the whole watershed, determine how much rote-known it would take, how big an area we'd have to do. So we did modify that application. And now we just learned that now has triggered an environmental impact assessment by the province. and that's fine. It's a slightly different project now, and so we'll do that. In the meantime, we're going through the regulatory hurdles, a lot of them, and they're being solved one by one. Unfortunately, the window to order rotenone is passing. An EIA has to be complete. Like, it's not going to happen in 2020. We just don't have time. We're not going to spend a lot of money on ordering rotenone and not have the permit ready in time. So it's becoming logistically impossible for this to be done in 2020. But we're pushing ahead. We want the permits. We want everything. The EIA is done. And this will happen in 2021, we hope. And so for us, the EIA is not a huge amount of work. And this has taken a lot of work to go through this application process, because in the DFO application process under the aquatic invasive species, we've actually done more work than really is required on an environmental impact assessment. So the only parts about the environmental impact assessment will be the public consultations. And we did try to do vast public consultations. Our plan was to hold community meetings along the watershed and in other areas where people would be interested, but COVID-19 put a stop to that. So we did some online consultations where people could talk to the experts and answer their questions, but obviously it's not the same as having a community-based meeting. So if COVID-19 persists and we have a second wave, I don't think that'll even happen. I don't know how they'll conduct an EIA for public consultation. But certainly people that have questions, like we have experts that can provide the answers. So that's a little update on where we're at with the smallmouth bass eradication. Obviously we were hoping that we would have had a permit early enough this season that we could do this work in 2020, because now that smallmouth bass are in the river, we want to control their spread. If we can get at them now, we can, we could stop the spread. Not to say that we're not going to do anything. We actually, to the prime spot where they're in, we have an access road built so that we can launch the electrofishing boat in that area. It's a perfect smallmouth bass habitat. It's slow moving, deeper water, huge boulders section of the river. And that's where the smallmouth bass are concentrated. So we can get that electrofishing boat in there. I think we can do quite a number on bringing that population down. And hopefully there's no more spread. DFO again will be doing the eDNA work, which will tell us the extent of the spread of the smallmouth bass. That's been really held up as well because of COVID-19. So COVID-19 has really put a damper on field activities, especially through fisheries and oceans. So other than that, a lot of meetings on that. I guess I should mention a few other things, is that our field crews have been out doing their striped bass assessment. It seems everything is around bass these days. But again, we're trying to prove that the Northwest Miramichi is not the only spawning grounds for striped bass. We've found eggs and larvae in the Tabasantac and the Southwest Miramichi. But is it successful? So we're following up now doing seines to see if we can get the juveniles. And there are lots of striped bass juveniles in the Tabasantac and the Southwest Miramichi. And of course, the Northwest Miramichi is our control area. And it's phenomenal numbers of fish that are caught in these little seines that we do. So that work is ongoing. And our toonie draw every week is ongoing as well. We'd like people to participate in that. It's only $2 a week to get in that draw. And I think this week was another rollover. And so the pot keeps growing if there's a rollover. And our online auction is going. We had some great trips in there and other items, so check it out. Go to our webpage and click our auction. Anyway, weather's nice, lots of fish in the river. Get out and enjoy yourself. And by the way, the other piece of news is that DFO had made some, in their variation orders, they announced it was going to be catch and release 2 fish only this summer on the Miramichi and the Restigouche. Unfortunately, in the variation orders, there was some confusion, and it still allows catch and release of 4 fish in certain sections of the river. And it was very confusing. We did have a meeting with DFO. They indicated they were going to change all of those variation orders so that it will be catch and release of 2 fish only. I haven't seen those new variation orders yet, but we've asked that when they do make the changes to those variation orders, that they let the public know that it's there. So anyway, if it's not now, it's going to soon be catch and release 2 fish only. Okay, bye until next week.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on that notification bell so that you can stay up to date with everything happening here at the Miramichi Salmon Association.